It's a concept in our religion, so I'm not going to be apologetic.
Jihad for the sake of Allah. You accept Islam, you pay jizya, or it's war.
The solution, very simple. Jihad fi sabilillah. We don't fear anyone but Allah. We don't fear the United Nations, British government. We don't give a damn. We only fear Allah. Jihad fi sabilillah.
And the disbelievers that may surround that community, the Quran has legislated something known as al-jihad, which we would refer to more specifically al-jihadul qitali, the armed struggle or armed warfare against those elements.
What do you think the future is though for jihad? Because
well, I just said that the Prophet ﷺ, I believe he said in the hadith that al-jihad madin ila yawm al-qiyamah, it's continuous until the day of judgment.
Islam is seeking to have a ministry of defense, and the ministry of defense is carrying out the jihad activities. This is natural, and this should be accepted as it is accepted in any other law.
The other type of jihad is the one that everyone trying to hide, and it's called jihadul talab, the jihad of pursuing. And this jihad was at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. But this jihad cannot be accomplished, cannot take place unless the state of the Muslims is strong. If you don't have a strong Muslim country, who can they pursue or attack? No, stay where you are. Just try to fix yourself, enrich your people with Islamic knowledge and Iman, then you can go. That is why when Muslims go and conquer the adjacent country, what do? We kill them all? No. The Prophet says, the first thing you do is call them to Islam. If they accept it, leave them. Khalas, they're Muslims, we go. We don't want your country, we don't want your land, we don't want your wealth. If they refuse, then tell them Allah obliged upon you to pay taxation, jizya. So we take jizya, and in return, when enemy comes and attack your country, you don't fight. We Muslims protect you. Subhanallah, for this little money? Yes. And you enjoy sitting in your homes and in your country and live your life normally. But the ruling is for Sharia. Publicly, Islam rules. If they refuse, then we have to fight. And if we fight you, then we capture you, you become our slaves, and we take your land, and you take where, because you refuse, I give you two good options. This is the strength of Islam. But nowadays, forget this. Maybe in the coming 40, 50 years, when the Muslims become strong as they're supposed to be, and they are focused and Islamically oriented.
Living inside the West, our role here is the same living here as in the world, is to make sure Allah's deen, Islam, is always dominant. And if that costs us imprisonment, I've been in prison many times myself for the same cause, no problem. But Islam, it is the truth, and it demands upon us sacrifice of life, time, energies, and even our own freedom. As for any other things about politically around the world, the Western governments, they're at war with Islam, and they have been from the time the Prophet sent the first armies to fight against the Romans in the Battle of Mu'tah in the 9th year of Hijrah. They will continue to the Day of Judgment.
The re-establishment of the Khilafah, once again, the Muslims had the vision of first and foremost to recapture all the former territory of the Muslims, including places like Spain. And obviously, and to continue the concept of Izharuddin, which is the complete domination of the world by Islam. So this is something that every Muslim believes in if you read the Quran. And obviously this is our legacy which is left behind by our forefathers. We have the duty to convey Islam wherever we are and to spread Islam.
Is there such a thing in Islam? Is there equality of faith? If we look to one hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on the authority of Abu Huraira, Sahih Muslim, so no Sunni Muslim can really argue against Sahih Muslim or Sahih Bukhari. Rasulullah said, don't greet the Jews and the Christians before they greet you, and when you meet any of them on the roads, force them to go on the narrow side of it. And Imam Malik, he said the same thing as well. In fact, Umar ibn Khattab, who Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that if there was to be another Nabi after me, it would be Umar ibn Khattab. In his own charter, His own charter, not charter of United Nations. In his charter with the people of Sham, with those Christians of Sham, in his charter was Kafir and Muslim, they're not allowed to wear the same clothes as one another. If the Muslim, he comes out on the day of Eid and he sees Kafir with nice clothes, the Kafir has to take his clothes off and give it to the Muslims. The Kafir, when he walks inside the street, he has to wear a red belt around his neck, and he has to have his forehead shaved, and he has to wear two shoes which are different from one another. He's not allowed to, and he's not allowed to walk on the pavement. He has to walk on. He has to walk in the middle of the road, and he has to ride on a mule. And that's only for the adults, not for the children. And you can see how Islam would make the child become a Muslim. The kafir, or the child growing up in a state of kufr, he will turn to Islam. Why? Because the child will be walking along with his dad. He said, Dad, yeah, why you got your forehead shaved? I don't know whether these Muslims, they make me do it. Why you got to walk? Why can't you ride the animal? Like the Muslims, they ride the animal like this. Why are you walking with both legs dangling on the side of the donkey? Why is it every time the Muslim comes to you, he asks you for your clothes, you give it? Why is it every time he tells you to get down from the horse, you have to take it? And not only that, he said the kuffar, they can have their churches. They can have their churches, but they're not allowed to ring the bell. And if a Muslim, he's walking by, let's say for example, a Muslim's been on Edgware Road for example. He's had some nice shisha, some nice steak, no hubble bubble, we don't deal with anything like that. And he's walking along and he's rubbing his belly and he's like, oh man, you know, I don't want to upset my wife tonight. What he can do, he can go to the church, knock on the door, John, let me in. Okay, no problem. John has to put up Abdul Ghafoor for the night. Abdul Ghafoor with his big belly, having his nice kebab. John has to open up the church and he has to go there and sleep there nice and comfortable and say, all right, John, thank you, and then carry on going early in the morning. Which wife is going to live with John under that type of circumstances? What kind of honoring is this for me to live with John and Abdul Ghafoor comes every Friday night and sleeps in our bed as well? Of course. Because sunnah is to look after the guest, innit? I can't make you sleep on my floor if you can't. You're a Muslim, by the way. So what about when Abdul Ghafoor goes to John's house? John, sleep on the floor, and I'll sleep on the bed. What's going to happen? Tracy's going to be on the floor thinking, my husband, he's got a forehead shaved, and this one, look at this one, khatab, mashallah. Which one's more attractive? We're not gay, but I'm just saying. A man with his forehead shaved and one belt around his neck and two different colored shoes, or Amir Khattab. Amir Khattab, we're talking about here now, with that nice Chechen hat, big beard, you know, a bit to the side, yeah? And he's got the badges there, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, yeah? And he's got a big gun, and he's got a big camouflage jacket on, nice boots, gloves as well. Even if he's got a couple of fingers missing, still looks attractive. Yeah? What's Tracy gonna do? John's in for a problem. He just let him in for a kebab, he lost his own wife as well. So everyone's going to become Muslim. That is, my dear brothers, the Islamic State.
That you love and you hate for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, a kafir, a non-believer, a non-Muslim.
Yeah.
We hate him for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The reason being is because he's upon kufr.
Of al-bara' wal-wala, this was explained by Ibn Qayyim and many others, is to love and to hate for the sake of Allah, which is simply summed up as loving the Muslims and hating the non-Muslims. Being loyal to the Muslims and not being loyal to the non-Muslims. Supporting the Muslims and not supporting shirk and kufr, etc. Regardless of the different types of shirk and kufr.
I hate the mushrikeen. I'm being open. I'm being honest. You're telling the disbeliever, you're telling the people of shirk and kufr, I don't like you, I hate you because Allah hates you. This is the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is our belief. This is our Islam.
Can I love dogs? Can I be a dog lover? No, it's nasty, right? Only person who will like that is a nasty, filthy person. And that's why some of the ulama, they say this is why the kuffar love dogs. Because they're filthy, they're khabith lil khabath. The filth for the filth. It's reality. I'm just telling you the reality. People might not like to hear it, but it's the reality.
So, Macron, the president of France, recently said
the Islamic world is in a crisis. I say, no, you are in a crisis. You went to the Muslim countries and you imported the garbage that the Muslim countries wanted to put in prison or isolate away from society. You went and you imported them. Why? For cheap labor. But these Islamist extremists, they don't want to work. They want free welfare. They want to marry French women, blonde hair, blue eyes. They don't have time to work. So look at Poland. They don't complain from Islamic extremism, not a single terrorist attack in Poland. The moment they sense there's a problem, they crack down on it. Polish policy, beautiful. The French, no, come. When they come, they use the resources. They go to Washington, D.C., and they sit in Congress. They support the Iranian regime. They go against the sanctions in Congress, right, with their hijab. Why? Because the ideology is filth to begin with. When you import that, or you allow it in, or you amplify it, or you glorify it in any way, you make your bed, sleep in it. So that is also a problem of the West. The question is, Tina, did the extremists become stronger or the West become weaker?
700 years of our trial to conquer Europe by force failed. They did something wrong, very wrong. They tried for many years to conquer Europe through wars, only wars.
This is the soft Islamic conquest of the West. Basically, what the Islamic and again, I'm an Orthodox Muslim. What we couldn't do in the last, say, 20 years, now the West is doing it for us for free and even paying for it.
Allah permitted them to live off the infidel while they are subduing them. So it had sort of a parasitic type of attitude where they can live off of the host country, where their goal is to eventually eradicate the host culture and supplant it with Islam.